Oh, hey.
Hey, buddy. How you doing?
I'm alright.
Okay. How you feeling?
Better now.
Chipper?
Did you just think of that?
Yeah.
Oh,
that's perfect timing.
Oh my god.
Okay. We got our snacks.
Holy shit.
Ready to rock and roll.
I wish we rehearsed that.
Yeah.
I wasn't ready.
Maybe I'm just really good at
I wasn't ready for that. What the fuck? Alright.
Alright, what are we talking about?
Welcome to Blood and Banter.
I'm Corinne.
I'm Colin.
And we're back.
What are we talking about?
We're... Wow. We're talking about perfection is meaningless. Mic drop.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. This actually resonates with you because at this recording time, he actually just competed in his first strongman competition. Round of applause, round of applause.
I did a strong boy thing.
And he medaled, which is fantastic for his first meet.
I feel pretty good about it.
Yeah, I mean, no, right, technically, he feels emotionally good. Right now, he feels like he's
Oh!
hit by a truck.
Oh,
So,
man.
yeah.
I feel neurologically destroyed.
Oh, yeah. So, round of applause, cheering at home, everyone. So, what does perfection is meaningless? Well, perfection in your eyes, what does that mean?
The end of pursuit.
At the end of pursuit. Okay, why?
Well, when you think of perfection, we think of the thing that has reached its pinnacle in all forms, right? Like if we think of a perfect shot, let's say in archery, you hit directly where you needed it to hit, whether it's a bullseye or whether it's any other kind of target that you would be hitting in any of those contexts. You do the perfect thing. It happens, it's recorded. There is no other thing for you to do in this realm. You have completed the ultimate goal. Then the next question comes, which is, what's next? There really isn't a what's next. Because you have achieved the ultimate next.
Do you think perfectionism or being perfect is a tangible and achievable goal? Do you think in a lot of stances of a lot of people doing whatever, sports education, being social or whatever, that they keep changing the line of perfection, they'll never achieve it?
Well, I think that the answer is inherent in your question. That if you keep changing the line of perfection, then you inherently will never achieve it. But I guess the angle that you had at the beginning, which is why is perfection the end of pursuit, and I'll explain why that matters in a moment, is because when you do the exact thing, like complete a game on hard mode, like fucking do Red Dead Redemption on hardest fucking difficulty you can, max everything out, you do all the tasks. Some people will pick up the game and just kind of relive it, but at no point in that Red Dead Redemption 2, I'm plugging again, will you play the first level, realize the plot twists, the tragedy that happens in the game. You will never feel the same way that you did at the beginning of that, the first time that you did. So, in essence, I think that my statement is really good in saying that perfection is the end of pursuit. It holds water. And I also think that perfection shouldn't be the ultimate goal.
Okay. Shoot beyond perfection.
Do
you think you should shoot beyond perfection, or do you think perfection is just a construct to give yourself an oomph?
I feel like a lot of...
It is like, I guess, like a... do you think being perfect and reaching perfection is a good goal to have, or do you think the stress of trying to make it perfect all the time to reach the 100% kind of makes you constrict and you can't move.
Oh, well, I mean, based upon what you said a moment ago, you keep moving the flagpole of success farther and farther. I think that, again, the answer kind of lies in that question. Those who view their goals, which is surrounded with the idea of perfection, are really running into a problem.
Oh, it'll work well.
They're gonna. At some point or another.
Okay, yeah.
I think that their goal should be to pursue failure.
Oh, I love failure.
I'm experiencing a lot.
I'm very pro failure.
And we've all heard different iterations of the exact same thing I'm going to say. But failure teaches and exposes more than any success will.
Okay.
Right? For example, I will use this weekend as an example.
Oh, yeah.
I completed a powerlifting event 3 weeks ago.
Yes, he did.
I did good at it.
Yeah.
And I was really sore from it. It hurt. I pushed a few needles farther for myself. So then I also was enrolled in a strongman event, which I've always wanted to do. I have some of my all-time idols, Eddie Hall, Brian Shaw, all these guys, including Hathor Bjornsson, Magnuson as well. There is no life. No, how'd it go? There is no point in life if you cannot deadlift. That guy.
Yeah.
80s, 90s, that kind of guy.
Yeah.
So, signing up for that strongman event, I did that knowing I was really, really, really sore and really, really fatigued and beat up from this powerlifting event. I went into it seeing all these events like the axle clean and press, sandbag to shoulder, sandbag throw, axle bar deadlift, and farmer's carry with all extreme weights, like things that I've never, ever attempted before. One or two of them I've kind of dabbled in before, but I'm walking into something that I absolutely had no fucking business jumping into the way I did. 3
You really
weeks,
just said, fuck it.
I really did. And I took all these events, I really dug into how they were done, and I just went to work for 3 weeks and then showed up to this goddamn thing.
You did really well.
I feel like it went well, but I also laid bare my own insufficiencies in a lot of ways.
Okay.
So I went into it knowing that perfection wasn't at all attainable, right?
Yeah.
Or even reasonable. If perfection, from the context of performing, like if I got gold at this competition, that means nobody showed up. There's no goddamn reason why I could come first in this.
Yeah.
It's because there are some unreal people competing in it. It was awesome.
Good names too.
Great names, extremely good performances.
Yeah.
And I'm just hanging in there. I bombed out of one of the events, the actual clean and press. I really got to go to work on that one. But the reason I'm bringing up my experience from yesterday is because I gained more from yesterday than I did from the powerlifting event that I went to.
Oh, yeah.
I technically beat whoever competed against me in my weight class and pretty much for the whole day in that powerlifting event. Didn't feel good. It didn't feel good. It didn't feel as good or as meaningful as coming third place in the strongman event when I stood among
giants,
crazy strong people doing things I've never done before. It was stimulating. It was just all of the right stuff.
It's also very interesting that when you look at powerlifting, he's a big fucker when you're looking at powerlifting, because a lot of people also mix powerlifting with other events, and then you look at him compared to strongman that competition, he looked pretty big compared to a lot of them, but he was also amongst people the same size as him. So it was kind of going from being the big fucker at powerlifting meet to the same size of most of his division, which was phenomenal.
And bigger.
There's some big guys in there.
It was really cool.
Yeah, it was really cool.
So to tie kind of back to the main question that you asked is why perfection and that should that be a thing to aim at? I don't think perfection makes sense. Because our whole mental health is wrapped up in the pursuit.
Yeah.
When you reach it and you grab the thing, the game's over.
Yeah.
The progress ends, which leads me into what you have to say about a really cool quote by a really cool guy.
Oh, yeah. So, historically controversial person, Winston Churchill, once said that perfection is the enemy to progress. And I like that in the sense of, because for me, when I set my sight on to being perfect and stuff like that, I get so clammed up of trying to be perfect all the time that I gas out, or I crash out, really.
Before crash out?
Well, if I'm trying to do, well, this is an education shout out, but if you're trying to have good grades all the time and there's no room for failure and you always if you get a bad mark, then you just you're under a crisis because you didn't get a perfect mark, so you're going in knowing that failure is real. So having the perfect, and then realizing that you are not invincible and you get a failure, then you're kind of you're having a crisis of, well, I'm going to be able to fail, so I have to be perfect at all times, so you work harder and harder and harder, and then you just kind of start dragging on yourself at that point, because then and then once that happens, you kind of go into a nice little or friendly depression, and then it kind of you become your own enemy into your make-believe perfection. So I found that out a lot with university students or college students or people just starting out, that they are not exposed to failure, especially for perfectionists or people that constantly the high achievers or the golden kids. They never realize that failure was an option until they're hit with it and they don't know where to go from that.
So I'm going to try to give my interpretation as to your assertion.
Yeah.
You're saying that failure is the thing that gives perfection or success meaning.
Mortality. Yes.
Whoa, that's not where I was going.
Sorry.
Mortality. Death. Why are we talking about death?
Because the perfection is death.
Perfection is
because
death.
Failure is perfection's death. Because if you realize,
Damn.
Because if you
put that on a shirt. Failure is
perfection. Yeah.
Wait.
Failure is perfection's death, or the death of perfection.
Death of perfection.
Yeah. So failure is the death of perfection.
Or is perfection the death of failure? Can we play with this?
Well, we can play with this. Go back to it. Yeah. But all we know is progress is the key of evolving. I guess is the best way to say it. It's going to progress is the key point of progress.
Progress for progress.
Progress is itself and nothing at the same time.
So I don't know. I don't know if that really summed up your thought there.
Not really, but I find that a lot of people who are always stemming to be or trying. The goal is to be perfect, and you're always perfect always. Then you don't know how to evolve or bounce back when you deal with the failure.
So you're saying that if you're always succeeding.
So
we're making the assumption that the person that we're using hypothetically has always won.
Always won. So, always got the good grades, always won, and never experienced the climb of getting to the perfection.
So so we take that hypothetical person that has always succeeded, and then they catastrophically fail.
Yeah, it happens.
So
it's life.
What happens after they catastrophically fail? Are you asserting that this hypothetical person would have a very difficult time dealing with that?
I find so, because a lot of the time when, say, if you're a good student in grade school or secondary school and you're building a repertoire of always succeeding and always having the good grades. And then a lot of the time, I see this a lot of university students and a lot of the university TikToks and such. They have good grades in grade school because you are a high achiever, and then you hit university and realize, oh shit, my special talents and my skills have mortality. You hit a bad grade, or you get that 60 instead of the 100 you're so used to getting
you ain't that big of a shit.
Exactly. So you're always at the top of the class. Yeah, you're always at the top of the class until you hit the university, and there's 1,000 other top of the classes. So you're always like fighting for that, but then you're excluding all the other things that makes you specific or makes you an individual. And I find a lot of that in sciences or in engineering and stuff. You go in being an individual and you leave as a carbon copy of the previous years before you. Because you're always reading a base perfection and not your own personal perfection. You're going off of another perfection.
There's a lot to unpack from that. So we've unpacked the reason that being perfect all the time is a flawed way to live. Mm-hmm. So that's good. We can tie a bow.
I like to say it's a false concept. Clearly can't say it. A false construct. There we go.
Yeah, we can take the stoic perspective of that too. If you approach every situation as though you'll win it, or there is no other option to win it, then you are damning yourself to a mental turmoil for when you do fail.
Exactly.
Okay, so tie a bow on that. That's pretty sweet. So then the other thing you said is that your identity being wrapped up with success. You kind of alluded to that a moment ago.
I did.
Yeah.
So going off the previous mentioned construct of people who base their identity over being perfect or being a perfectionist and doing that, or type A, as one would say. I
am not that.
I'm not. I'm like a type C. I Googled that recently.
I don't feel like I'm an A.
No. So a lot of the times when you're dealing with perfectionism and all of that, and then you hit a failure, or you hit a wall, or you hit burnout, or whatever, you don't have the mental or physical skills of bouncing back from your failure to then progress back into the perfection that you're so used to. So I find a lot of that times when you go into school, there's always that one person that was so good at school that they never learned how to study, for example. They always caught on really quickly to the lessons, so they just never studied. Yeah. Or they always did the reports in the last minute because they knew that they could do it. They can just spread out fantastic report writing and then problem solve, whatever. But then when they hit, say, a harder teacher or another institution that is harder to deal with, they never learned how to be a team player, or they never learned this studying things, or they never knew how to do pop quizzes and all that because they're so used to knowing everything in
Fuck pop quizzes, man.
I'm a fan of pop quizzes.
Are you a fan of pop quizzes?
I'm a fan of pop quizzes.
Psychopath.
No, yeah, because I'm a fan of pop quizzes. I was a mediocre. I was kind of doing that 70 to 80 range of grades. No. So when I'm busting my ass trying to study and all that, and then the slacker out there wasn't even listening, or they haven't been showing a class, and then you have a pop quiz randomly, that bodes well for me because that means I get bonus marks, and the fucker that keeps copying my homework or asking me to tutor him, yeah, he's failing. Good, fantastic, whatever. I'm very pro.
That sounds like a whole little bit of lore there.
There's some lore to that. There's a lot of lore to that. So anyway, because I've experienced failure in a lot of situations where there have been sporting, education, or social. We'll unpack that in a hot minute. So I developed the rebound skills and the where do I go from now skills. Resilience.
Resiliency.
Vocabulary is low at 10 on the Sunday night. So I learned the resiliency, or be resilient when it comes to failure. And as we all know, I'm a wise person. So I learned from my failures. I know where to go and what the stepping stones to get back to my perceived perfection is. And also, there's also a personal perfection, and then there's the external perfection. Because I'll never be where the external parties view perfect. So, where it as be a social aspect or sport. I'm not athletic to the extent of, say, I can't play soccer, I can't do baseball, but I'm really strong, arguably. So I can always get personal
400 and what?
442 standing right now.
This bitch can pull a couple grown men off the ground.
Yes, I can steal 2 baby elephants. So...
How much is a baby elephant?
230. Like they're
What?
like they're pretty small. I was shocked how light they are.
You can lift.
I can lift 2.
A bit, 2 and a 1 and a bit
One
of a
and a
baby
bit,
elephant.
yeah.
One.
So
I don't want to think of a bit of a baby elephant. We're gonna say 2 baby elephants.
Yeah, so I can successfully pick up at least 1 baby elephant or 2 calves because they're only 135 to 170 pounds depending on the breed.
For cows? Cool. That's kind of metal as fuck.
A calf.
That is very rural of you.
Thank you. I like to gauge. Or I can push a Chevy up a hill.
You got a Chevy?
No, I had to.
Fuck.
I googled it. So anyway.
So I guess what I'm curious about is that you're.
So I make goals. I'm a very, as we know, we've talked about this, guys. I'm a very goal-oriented person. So when I try to be the external perfection of, say, my class or sporting or whatever, I've always felt defeat and I'm always sad, like depression and all that, because I can never get to the external perfection. But since I made my own goals and I have my own perfection of the season, then I have an obtainable perfection that I'm reaching for. So that's a good thing. But if I'm doing the external perfection, then I'm just clamming up and not reaching where I am. So I'm always not progressing the way that I should be because I'm always going for that specific perfection instead of the wide range of other perfections. Like, hey, I'm a shitty drawer, but goddamn it, do I appreciate art. So we got those 2 lines. And, I can't play guitar for shit, but I can play other instruments. So there's the other thing. I can do saxophone, I can do piano, I can do the tin flute and the kalimba.
You can play the tin flute?
Yeah, I have a tin flute.
Why haven't we brought this on yet?
Oh, by the way, I'm bad at, I'm not like perfectionist at the tin flute, but I can play a tin flute. I know the
fuck's sake. You had actually answered the question I had earlier. But I would like to pivot a little.
Yes.
Are you ready?
We're pivoting.
You got some greased up joints ready to go?
Yes.
Alright, so we're going to pivot to the...
Sorry.
Oh, it wasn't on camera. Get in camera. Do the other arm.
Where am I? There we go.
There's an arm.
There we go. Sorry.
You get.
Sorry.
So, you were talking about several things, which I think is super duper valuable. And one of them is talking about how the goalpost of perfection gets moved forward every time you reach the proximity of it.
Yes.
An example of that could be running.
Yeah.
I've reached 1 kilometer. Let's do 2. I reached 2 kilometers. Let's do 5. Right?
There you go. Sure.
So that's an example of goalposts being shifted forward. So that is getting to my whole point of your idea of ready enough or perfect enough is a fallacy.
I like the enough.
Right, and that's a really cool thing because if we think of this from like a business standpoint, 70% of a task is all that you need to begin. So you need 70% of a business concept for you to begin and then improve upon later. Because you gotta stress test things anyway, and if you want to just begin, then 70% would be it.
Yeah.
As opposed to the alternative, which would be, if we take a business idea like, pick a business. IKEA, grocery store? Grocery store? Grocery store?
A gas station?
A gas station. Okay.
I think gas station is a really good idea. Yeah.
Okay, gas station. So, we need to be able to sell gas.
Yes.
So we got to dig a little pot or a little tank for the gas to be stored in. Okay. Where do we put it? We have the building, and then we have a whole lot. Where do we put the gas? Underground. Okay, so we put it underground. How far away from the actual pumps?
Preferably right next to it, or
right next to it?
Right under it.
Okay, so with that, we got to dig a foundation. We got to get some well water. Do we put the well water connected right next to the gas tanks that we just sunk in? Probably not. Okay, well, how far away should we put the water next to the gas?
Far enough away.
Far
and
enough. Far enough.
Upstream.
And upstream. Okay, this is definitely up your alley.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, so we got the water figured out, we got the sewage figured out, we got the gas storage, we got the diesel storage, sewage downstream, and Okay, so we got pumps.
Mm-hmm.
Do we want to do it with tap? Do we want to do it with...
Pump.
Do we just pump? Or just like reach
Hose.
it in? Do we want to do the old style or the new style?
That's the new style.
New style? Okay, so we got that. So then we get into the actual store. Are we going to be selling goods?
Yeah.
Okay, so what
Corner store.
Corner store. Okay, so we're not only a
store,
gas station, now we're also a convenience store.
Mm-hmm.
You can see where I'm going with this, right? This shit can get min-maxed as fuck. And you can spend your entire life optimizing the fuck out of this design.
I feel like that is also a hit when it comes to codes and programmers.
But at some point you have to make a decision.
Mm-hmm.
At some point, if you're going to execute on the task,
mm-hmm.
it has to happen. So, if you get to a point of good enough, aka 70% or whatever percentage you identify as,
mm-hmm.
you execute on it, and then you can figure out what you want to do later.
There you go.
But if you're chasing perfection, that doesn't really exist in this concept, and because you do end up moving the goalpost farther and farther every time
mm-hmm.
you come close to it. It looks amazing. Well, it could look a little better. Well, it could look a little better. Because
mm-hmm.
you can always fucking reinvent the idea of perfection.
There you go.
So, just do enough, and then add as you go.
Yeah.
So you had a good idea a second ago. I had to finish my thought.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Go for it.
There we go, unpinned.
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 I promised.
Yeah, there you go. I find like living with a coder and all that, I find that when you're dealing with codes or programs in general, that when you are doing something, you can never quite finish it completely, and a lot of the times you have to have a live code. So a lot while you're fixing it is producing whatever you're trying to do, and as you're fine-tuning it, it's out in the world. So I find if it's going to be a closed system or an or not live program, then you're just going to be whittling away with it for years. So I like the idea of having a live program so they can see, or live code,
mm-hmm.
so they can see what's going on, and at least as it's progressing, you can say, oh, it's fixing now, we're good to go, instead of just whittling away and not knowing if it's going to fully work or not.
Yeah, I think that's a really good allegory for
mm-hmm.
life,
yeah.
honestly.
Yeah.
So,
trial and error, my dudes.
Yeah, good enough is good enough until you find out what the next right decision is,
mm-hmm.
and then you get to move it. But perfection shouldn't be really the first place to start.
No.
It should be a totem pole which you never intend to reach, but have a glimpse at.
Yeah.
But I also want to unpack a few things that you had written down. Mm. So there's some different definitions and different contexts that we want to unpack. Mm. One of them is sports. We did business already.
Yeah.
Let's talk about sports.
Well, we touched on that based on your experience on Strongman and like the differencing the goals and realizing that, okay, well, shoot your shot and see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
I like that. But
fuck around and find out.
Fuck around and find out. I like it. And he found out
successfully. Man, did I find out.
I like this quote that I found on Google. It's the athletes who strive for perfection often experience heightened self-criticism, dwell on mistakes, and struggle to transfer practice confidence to competitive situations. This can negatively impact performance and overall well-being. And we see that a lot in young athletes as well.
Yeah, it transfers into your idea of the student that always wins.
Exactly.
Too, right?
So I've noticed that a lot in the times when you expose young athletes to what they perceive as perfect sporting or being athleticism or goals and nutrition and all stuff like that, and they don't personally reach it, or they just don't have the lifestyle to maintain it, that they also dwell on self-confidence and the realization that they cannot reach the external perfection and not create their own personal goals. So they're just always being critical of their own
That's
doing.
A really good one I want to put in. Creating your own personal goal. Continue.
And yeah, good point on the education part that I've already touched on, based on university going from a high achiever to a mid achiever. Another quote. Mid. Anyway, so Google said, focusing only on achieving perfect results means that perfectionists not only miss out on learning, growing through the process, but they have a hard time being proud of their achievements. Which is a big thing too, because when you achieve the perceived perfection that you've been striving for, you don't feel the sense of pride and accomplishment, you feel relief. Which I find a lot of people struggle with, because once you get to that point, you're like, oh, now I can breathe. I did it. It's success. And you're not like, yeah, I did it. What's the next thing? It's okay, I did it. And that sucks too, because I feel like
Bumstead's a good example of that.
Yeah,
Chris Sebum.
Also, Sulik, Sam Sulik.
Did he experience that?
He won, I believe. He medaled at least, and he also felt the. Well.
Now what?
What are you gonna do
now? He did the thing that I sought out to do.
And I find having personal goals and having your own set routine and progress markers. For me, even before I started lifting, I said, all right, I'm going to get that 300 deadlift, then we'll start going to competitions. And that's what I did. In my very first competition, I pulled 400. All right, cool. I'm pulling 400. Blah, blah, blah. Next season, I want to, starting the season, I want to pull 200 kg or 441 pounds as a deadlift. I reached that. So and at the end.
How did it feel after doing that, by the way?
Oh man, power boner. It was fantastic.
You can have those?
Well, it's like an emotion, right? You just get if I was a man, it was like fucking yeah.
I do not get erections after doing strong things.
Me either. I don't have one.
Just so we're clear.
There you go. Anyway, so you felt that exertion of. Fuck yeah, I did it.
Yeah, you were barking on the way
I was barking. It was
really
I'm a barker.
Cool.
If you see me at competitions, I'll bark at you. It's kind of it's like anyway, so it's really nice. Anyway, and I also had a season goal of being able to bench 180, and unfortunately, my 180 didn't count. I counted.
You did press it.
I pressed it. I jumped the command. So as an emotional thing, technical error, which is valid. Me emotionally, I know I benched 180, so I will progress in the goal of, now my new goal for the season is being able to, at the end of the season, bench 200, and at the end of the season.
Oh, that's gonna be cool.
It's my goal now, so because I reached my personal perfection goal of the season, I'm going to add on to it, but I find a lot of people struggle with having continuation perfection, or moving the goal of, and wanting, I reached the perfection. What's the progressive perfection? A lot of people miss that mark.
That's a good line.
A lot of people see perfection as the end. As you said, perfection is the end. But what's the progressive perfection? I go from one perfection, okay, I reach my own personal. A lot of women can't deadlift 440. So I reached it.
A lot of
women can't. Actually, arguably, a lot of men can't walk into a gym and deadlift 400. Like that's
most.
So for me, knowing that, at least I can, as a general, 20% of other people can't do that. So now I know that I'm perfect in some form out in the external world. But now I want to be at least. So I'm kind of like a low-level powerlifter. So now I want to be a mid-powerlifter. And then I want to progress until I am a named person, That's also not going to work. But it's a goal.
Well, it's...
Because he is known as the regional 700 deadlifter. He's a named person, by the way.
I've earned my name.
And so I want to earn a name as well. So.
What's the name? 500?
500. Yeah, that's a goal. Is it going to be this season?
500.
Yeah.
So,
my goal for this season is going to be 220 kg. That is my goal. I don't know if it's going to work, but it's a goal. So
sick.
It's going to be a goal. So that's my goal.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
So I think that perfection as a goal doesn't make sense in most cases.
It's not.
What does make sense is having an overarching why behind the pursuit.
Yes.
Because we already know from this conversation here that the pursuit of said goal is the exciting part and is the meaningful part.
Yeah.
But if the pursuit doesn't have an overarching why behind it, then it becomes very easy for you to no longer want to pursue the thing.
Also, if the pursuit itself is not satisfying.
Well, inherently, a pursuit can be unsatisfying.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm saying the why should be a big part of it.
Yeah.
So, for example, I did some stupid shit this weekend. I picked up a lot of heavy objects and moved really quickly and did things for no inherent benefits. There's no cash prize for this event. So why the fuck would I pick all these things up, run around with them, and go ooga booga, look at this?
Ooga booga.
It's actually a pretty profound reason for me.
Yeah.
Because I'm trying to do things that inherently look impossible so that I create a pedestal for my future offspring to view upon and say, fuck, this thing that I'm facing right now is pretty crazy, but by God, Dad did that.
Mm-hmm.
So if he can do that with this scenario, maybe I can figure this one out.
Yeah.
Because it's an example, it's a pedestal to push those that follow me up higher.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Wherever that is, but I am in essence laying that foundation.
There you go.
So, sink, swim, flounder, whatever it is. Flounder. Right?
Just parrotfish.
Right? I feel more like a injured fish in a lot of these scenarios, but god damn it if I ain't swimming.
I'm a big fan of flounder.
Is that from Little Mermaid?
That not a flounder, but his name is Flounder.
His name. What? So his name's Flounder and he's not
a
flounder.
Flounder. No.
That's fucking upsetting.
You want to know what a flounder looks like?
I don't want to talk about this anymore, but.
Yeah. That's what a flounder looks like. I'm a big fan.
He's not a flounder!
No, he's like a guppy. Anyway, this is what a flounder looks
Flounders look fucking disgusting.
Look at that. They also taste bad. It's fine.
What is flounder actually then? A fucking sunfish?
Oh, probably. What is
Guys.
flounder?
I know this is a tangent, but we're going to take a second here. What is flounder from My Little Mermaid? Or My Little?
Fish.
The Little. Not My Little.
What type of fish is flounder from?
What was I thinking about?
No. My Little Pony.
Guess I played with him too often as a kid.
With G.I. Joes.
They needed something to ride. They needed to ride something.
Oh, it is.
Is it a sunfish?
Yeah, that's not a sunfish.
What the fuck is that?
What is that? I'm not a fish specialist.
Is flounder like representative of an action then?
Flounder? No, a flounder is a fish.
I know, but it could also be in like an adjective. Anyway, I'm having an existential crisis.
We see it. I just don't know what that means. Fuck off.
Name the fish.
Name the goddamn fish.
Anyway.
Oh my god, I don't need the history of the mermaid.
So, point being,
Angelfish.
Perfection doesn't make sense. I'll say it again a little clearer for you. Perfection, for its own sake, is flawed, and you will fall down a rabbit hole. You must determine your own why behind whatever the fuck you're pursuing, because once the why is there, the grind is so much easier.
And with that,
I'm Cohen.
I'm Corinne.
Like and subscribe.
I don't want to yell at them. Like,
Bitches.
we're blood and banter. No.
Go to sleep.
Bye.